Great joy and a sense of distinct privilege that I welcome you all to Art Center College of Design for the LEAP Symposium. A dear mentor of mine likes to say that one convenes conferences and symposia to see who will come. And as I look around the room, even with these lights that are blinding me a bit, I'm just thrilled to see who's here. So it's just fantastic. Thank you. Saying thank you is the first order of business for me this morning. I'm the kid of diplomats, so I take protocol very seriously. But it's important because, as you know, a gathering that holds the aspirations of LEAP and hopefully the promise simply does not come to be without the collective contributions of many. Individuals, organizations, networks, companies, foundations who are deeply inspired by this intersection of design and social innovation are making this gathering possible. And to all of them, we want to say thank you. I'm going to pause and highlight a few of these partners this morning, starting with our lead supporters for LEAP, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the CERNA Foundation, who have been invested in supporting this emergent space for quite some time. We're really very grateful. Our private sector partners, Steelcase, Adobe, SAPI, Autodesk, they are design global leaders, and it's exciting to see how they're supporting the field as well. We will be treated this evening to a beautiful reception, thanks to the generosity of our friends from the Ideas That Matter team at SAPI in the historic Gamble House, a real gem of architecture here in Pasadena. Many of you have been recipients and or judges of the Ideas That Matter competition, and you know how significant that program has been for more than a decade in matching good design with nonprofit sector organizations. Thank you. A word about Autodesk. I've been given the permission to share a bit of news with you this morning. Autodesk, and some of you may know this already, and this piece of news will be really widely shared next week at the Clinton Global Initiative annual meeting. Autodesk is now making its software available for free to nonprofits to imagine, design, and create a better future. This is an initial investment of $7.5 million that stands to benefit more than 500 nonprofit organizations in its first year alone. Also, next year, Autodesk is planning to launch a multi-million-dollar, first-of-its-kind foundation dedicated to social impact design. It will be called the Autodesk Impact Design Foundation, and both the software program and the foundation are being spearheaded by a friend of many of us here in this room, John Carey, who sends his best wishes and is not here because he's leading the TED Global Cities event in New York tomorrow. We are happy to have Gilad Meron here representing John. Thank you. There are also LEAP partners that are bringing their unique resources, expertise, and networks to the symposium and will be leading 3 parallel workshops tomorrow in the afternoon. And I encourage you to attend one of these. NCAA, who has done so much as an organization in promoting innovation and invention in higher education in this country. Verb, with Susie Sosa and all the trajectory with the Dell Social Innovation Competitions, will be leading a workshop. And of course, our partners of good, talking about the role of media and how media can continue promoting this conversation. We're delighted for your contributions to this. And this is a conversation that will be, of course, broadcast, documented, and shared with many more people beyond this room and this auditorium. And we have our media partners, the Design Observer, Public Interest Design, and Good to thank for that. I'm thankful and grateful to our center staff, faculty, students, and alumni who represent a fundamental backbone of this symposium. And it's important to say that the openness to experimentation and change of the institutional fabric of this college has been a very significant source of inspiration for me for many years now. And today, it's that same organizational culture that is open to learning, that is providing us with a physical context for this conversation to occur. And in that regard, I'd like to acknowledge and thank the support and leadership of Dr. Lorne Bachman, our president, who you will be meeting and hearing from this evening at Gamble House, that of our provost, Fred Filau, as well as the many contributions of my colleagues in the development, marketing, facilities, and IT department, making this symposium come together. Back in 2001, when I had the opportunity to co-found with a college-wide task force here at our center, Designmatters, that real sense of experimentation was what allowed us to get this social impact design program going. We had, in many ways, carte blanche to experiment, to fail, to learn. And I cannot overestimate what a profound learning journey this has been for more than 12 years now, institutionally and for me personally. And so it's a lot of the work of our students, the projects that have been led by our faculty, infused with the knowledge of our partners over time, the opportunities, the limitations of that practice and that learning that in a way come full circle here today with, I think, a lot of the questions we share in this audience and that I hope we will examine in the next 3 days of LEAP. So a genuine conversation, we know, is a free exchange of ideas. But we also know that we have a group of too many designers in this room to imagine that that conversation would just happen impromptu. So be prepared to encounter dialogue at LEAP that is seeded with probes, with what-ifs, with scenarios. And it's a dialogue that I anticipate will manifest as much through words, the spoken word, as through post-it notes and butcher paper, storyboards, sketches, mind maps, etc. This is a dialogue that will be mediated, facilitated, analyzed, synthesized many times over in the next 3 days. And to do this, to accomplish this, we have to thank a masterful group of lead design facilitators, along with teaching assistants, interns, illustrators, writers, filmmakers, who will all be part of this conversation and that you will get to know well during our working sessions. So let me say that the building blocks for this symposium have come together thanks to 2 groups of individuals. The core programming team of LEAP, and their photos are on the screen, that are, and this is a group comprised of my team with Designmatters, bit of my partner in crime, Elisa Rufino, the director of the program, Jennifer May, who by now you all know through all the emails and preparation, our manager of the symposium, but also very close colleagues at the school who have been instrumental in designing the program for LEAP. Our Director of Sustainability is Heidrun Mumper-Drumm, Christine Baun in Alumni Affairs, and of course Karen Hoffman, who you will meet this morning shortly on this podium, and Sherry Hoffman. Thank you. Your contributions have been invaluable to making this happen. The second group of individuals is, of course, the National Braintrust that has come together to envision this conversation. They are, in many ways, the co-instigators with me of this gathering. Jocelyn, Wyatt, Bill, Allan, Lee, and Robert. I am really grateful for the towering influence you have in shaping this field and for counting you as friends. Thank you. LEAP is a participant-led conversation. We've said this a lot in our materials, and we really mean it. We have envisioned for the symposium an environment for everyone to share insights, reflect on experiences, and come prepared to pose questions and reframe old answers. We have made the intentional choice to keep the size to a scale that is manageable. And there are, of course, some people that are not here today because of life reasons and schedules. But the folks that are here today, and as you can see in this graph, we're about 60% designers, 40% non-designers, and there's a very interesting cross-section of expertise and backgrounds in this room, and I anticipate that will be just fantastic in propelling forward our conversation. So for the last part of my presentation, I just wanted to do very briefly a little bit of framing. And starting with this idea that the reason for our multiplicity of lenses here is that we're really looking at addressing one central issue, one wicked problem. What are these career pathways for designers as they get immersed in a social innovation context? What do they look like? And we really don't believe there is one answer or one scenario, but many. And we're looking at everyone to really come together to debate what that may be. We believe that the title of the gathering, LEAP, which was conceived by a former student of our center a couple of years ago when we first started thinking about giving a visual identity to this gathering, is a powerful word, since it invokes this idea of courage and commitment and determination, which are such important qualities in the spaces that we all navigate. When we consider the growth of complexity, but also uncertainty of the world we live in, and think about design as a reflective community of practice, in the words of Sean, and a pluralistic field for inquiry, adept at tackling the famous wicked problems that Rittel and Weber identified. We know that this is a time that calls for a lot of urgency, a time that holds a lot of urgency, and that really calls for action. So, in this sense, I believe that it's quite exciting that the unbounded space of design allows us to embrace those alternative futures in a way that can be actionable and inspiring. And if, again, we think about social innovation and the ramifications of imagining a future that is not there yet, but that could be, I'm reminded of the great words of a mentor of many of us here as well, Professor Ezio Manzini, who also talks about social innovation as driven by a diffuse creativity. that has a lot, in a moment in time where there are a lot of resources available to us, but where also we need the courage and the commitment to recognize them and act. This is a really emergent space, and I think we all recognize that, and perhaps that's why we're all here today. And in that regard, Raymond Williams' understanding of emergence as a place where new meanings and new relationships get negotiated and redrawn, I think is an important reminder of how much work there is in front of us in an unmapped frontier of sorts. And in this regard, the sense of being in an unmapped frontier for design is quite consequential. We know from a lot of our work and practice and research that there's still a rhetoric that we have to come to terms with. There is still a sense that we need to produce evidence. We need to demonstrate the value of design in this space. And again, this is not a reductive definition to come up to one agreement or one point of view. I think that we're all here at LEAP because we recognize that this is also a great area of promise for the professional pathways of many of our students, those of us who are educators, and for many of the designers we want to engage outside, for those of us who are outside design. There are 3 questions as a point of departure that we've put forth in this symposium that you have seen in the program, looking at trying to come to grips and start off today with answering the what, the how, and the why, the sense of implications. What are really the implications in this space? We will have, as part of the program, a very important point of departure as well, thanks to the opening arguments that most of you have shared. And we will hear from Allan in a little bit, recounting some of those with us today. Those will be really important probes to get going. We have also told you that we will have a beautiful filmmaker, Ben Weiss, who will have a film booth here. And we're hoping you will share stories and anecdotes of your own pathways and your own perspectives in the space. Those will be filmed, edited, and some of them shared in the next couple of days that we are together. And then there will be moments for regathering and reflection and inspiration with our lunchtime talks today and tomorrow, but also some informal visual stories by some LEAP participants that are yet to be announced. That will be a surprise. So, this is a conversation that has 3 keywords that I would like to have you remember. It's one that we hope will be dynamic, exploratory, and for sure, honest. And I want to dwell on that, what I mean by that word, honesty, because it really matters to me that we embrace this dialogue by remaining, in the words of the great philosopher Gadamer, open to the new, the different, and the true. So if we can try to accomplish that, I think that we will end these 3 days, perhaps not with a definitive manifesto or answer, but hopefully really with a sense of action and a sense that we can take a step forward with new meanings and new insights. So with that, I want to end this short remarks with a quote that someone who is a towering influence in my own thinking, Dick Buchanan, likes to cite often, and that I believe is quite relevant here today, that of the German philosopher Jaspers. This idea of dialectic, and that the truth really begins with 2, In this case, it will begin with 115 of us that are gathered at LEAP. And I really want to thank you for being part of it this morning. So now it will be the Braintrust that will come up on stage and share their own LEAP opening arguments. Thank you.
Well, I have to admit this is a little intimidating when you've been referred to as the Braintrust. Because if you're like me, my brain function doesn't actually start working until after 10 o'clock when the caffeine is kicked in. But hopefully I can get some complete sentences out. I want to really thank Mariana and the others here at Art Center. This is a beautiful and inspiring place to be to have this conversation. And I really feel honored to have been asked to be a part of this event. And particularly with my other brain trusters, to share some opening thoughts with you as we engage on this leaping over the next 3 days. So the actual brain trust, I think, is in this room, all of you, and I hope over the next few days we'll recognize the value of the collective experience of everyone in this room. And I especially want to reach out to the 40% of you that have identified as non-designers. One of my friends who came said, I feel a little intimidated, not being a designer coming to this group, and, what's the dress code? And I said, well, so what I've been told is that designers typically wear nice shirts, nice glasses, and maybe some colorful socks. So if you do that, you're gonna fit in totally fine. But you might be asking yourselves, why am I here? Did any of this make any sense to you? And if it didn't, I actually am really happy about that, because that's exactly why we wanted you here. We need your critical, objective, and informed input to move this conversation forward, not just designers talking to designers. So why are we here? Building on some of the comments that Mariana made, she had asked us to share some of our sort of opening thoughts to help inspire the conversations that will be happening. And for me, obviously, the most obvious reason, very practical reason that we're here is to explore these professional pathways for this amazing new generation of social designers and design entrepreneurs that are emerging from programs like this one here at Art Center or at MICA, where I work, or the dozens of other programs around the country and around the world. And we're here because we want to ensure that there are opportunities out there for these creative change makers to find their professional path. And I'm personally very vested in this because I myself abandoned my career as a designer in the early 90s when I quickly realized at that time that no one outside of the traditional design firms saw any value to what I do or thought I could do. What could a designer possibly know about public health or economic development or community organizing? And I think students and educators today are still facing this fundamental communication challenge. We need to get better at making the case to potential employers of the tremendous value that our students can bring to their work in social innovation and social change. And we need to get better at documenting, articulating, and demonstrating the value and impact of social design in practice. But just sort of a side note related to that, I don't want us to be here thinking that we're in this passive role where it's just about us kind of convincing others that we're valid and important people as designers. I spent too many decades doing that, sort of coming out of the closet as a designer and a few other things, but we won't go into that. And I don't want us to feel like we somehow have to be here trying to rationalize who we are. Quite the opposite. I think some of the beauty and the great value that we bring to the table as designers is our ability to see these new opportunities, to visualize, make new connections. And I want to ensure ourselves that we encourage ourselves to be proactive and really to create our own new opportunities in this space, our own new enterprises, our own new pathways. This entrepreneurial spirit that I feel is really very much alive in the design world is something we really need to build on. The second point I want to make is, and perhaps more importantly, is that I hope over the next few days we don't lose sight of the deeper, more fundamental reason why we're here, beyond the goal of sort of finding us all jobs. I think we need to keep focused on and constantly and humbly ask ourselves if the ideas that we're generating here together are not only helping us to find these professional opportunities for ourselves and our students, but they're really adding value to the communities, the organizations, and the people we purport to help. So I think the conversations, we need to keep them embedded in the fact that our ultimate goal here is really to find the unique role that design can play in really propelling social change. And this directly relates to the last point I wanted to make, which is, at first glance, social design appears to be a new concept. And I feel that we're really not innovating to a certain degree. I think we're really in the next iteration of defining what design is and what its potential can be. That we need to be careful and humble and reflective at this stage of our evolution, and that I feel we're overemphasizing the concept of innovation. Despite the obvious allure of innovation and creating new ideas, new products, new concept, our goal as designers, and especially as social designers, is not innovation in and of itself. Our goal, again, is to ensure that design adds the greatest value to solving critical social problems. And whether our ideas are new or innovative is really irrelevant to me. And oftentimes, they really aren't. The ideas, the concepts, the strategies, the methodologies of social change may be new to us and may be new to the design field, but they aren't new to our colleagues who've been working in the social change and in the trenches for decades already. And we need to really focus on increasing designers' social literacy, as we call it, by learning from the lessons of the past practice and the other disciplines in anthropology and community organizing and social work and community development, social enterprise. We need to radically change design education to prepare our students to be a part of these collective teams and to be together with all of those like you who have deeper knowledge in other disciplines. And so we need to be better training young designers to be innovative and creative and bold, but also to be humble and to value the collective knowledge of collaboration and interdisciplinary work. So as Winston Churchill said, I think always remember you're unique, just like everyone else. So I look forward to leaping with you over the next few days. Thank you.
Lee, thanks for clicking my slide. I think my quote captures a lot of what I was going to say. So I'm just going to leave it there for a sec. I've been struck in the last couple of years by a couple of thoughts in this space. One of them is that there's this idea of a community. I think normally in my lifetime, we used to think of designers working with clients, but increasingly when I hear stories from the field, I'm hearing stories about designers working in communities. And I think that there's power in that evolution that's worth thinking about while we gather here. But I think there's also the idea that as we explore what is this new space called design for social innovation or design for social change, that we are in fact building a community. You are a community. And I hope in the coming days that you will take advantage of not just the workshops, but the meals and all the events to talk to the people who you're sitting next to make some new friends, and to understand that at some point we're going to find on one of these mind maps the idea of a network. We're building our own network. And it's starting today. So join us and have fun. Lee also, separate from clicking for me, stole one of the words I was going to use, but I'm going to do it again anyway, which was, I was going to say humility. I think a lot of people in this room have been working in these spaces for a long time and have had, clients or projects or, in which they had some success. Lots of you have had successful careers. I think as we work together, that a certain humility is appropriate. Because if you've been working in these spaces, what we know is that it's hard work, that success is seldom, and that where success is happening, that we don't know how to document it, we don't know how to duplicate it, and that we're still learning. And if you're still in a learning mode, I think it suggests that humility is of value. So I think it's something to bring into our work that we're going to do here together. With that, I think I'm going to keep my remarks short. I do have one last thing, because there's no such thing as, well, first of all, this brain trust idea is, it's great to be on the brain trust, but I'm going to apply a certain humility and say we're no brainier than everybody else in the room. But I also want to say, having run something called the Winterhouse Symposium for Education and Social Change for the last 4 years, I have a little bit of a sense of how much work is involved with this. And I think we as a community should give it up for Mariana, the entire team at Art Center, and for Art Center itself for hosting us and bringing us together. Thank you. And now I am clicking. It worked.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, I'm sensing a pattern here. So it seems like Lee stole Bill's words, so Bill had to steal mine. And mine was fun. And I really, in part, this quote sounds serious, but in many ways it's inspired by a desire to make sure that we're all doing what we love and doing things that we enjoy. And I feel like it's important to remember that as we talk about things like career paths and professionalism. It can all start sounding a little dreary. And I think a big part, at least for the people I know who are in this room, big part of why you're doing what you're doing and exploring these frontiers is because it is fun and it's stuff that you're passionate about. And we all know that that is really where our creativity gets unleashed and where we can be most effective as a group. We're a small group, very, 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 very small group. And I think sometimes we also lose sight of some of the special ingredients that we can bring to these conversations, to these partnerships, to initiatives in far-flung places. I feel like we're really counting on the 40% of people who don't identify themselves as designers here to help remind us what those ingredients are, because we can lose sight of them. So 2 words that I also think we overuse are the words design and designer. If I think about what I've learned from Chris at UNICEF and other partners in the room, people don't care that we're designers and they don't care about design. There are things that we help unlock and unleash in terms of creativity, in terms of insight, in terms of play, in terms of empathy. And I think those are the critical things that we bring into situations that are sorely lacking them. And so I'm going to close with one other word, other than being brief, which is the word permission. And I think one of the biggest things we do is create a different sense of permission. And we've in many ways got a seat at the table and an opportunity to collaborate in situations in which we didn't necessarily earn it, but people are looking for somebody to change the dynamic and somebody to create a sense of permission so that different questions can get asked and a different type of play and collaboration can happen. And we get to play that humble role. And I feel personally like it's a lucky one. I don't know that design or designers are the only people who could play that role. I just think we're lucky enough to have walked into it. So I guess the closing word for me is luck. I think everyone here has a good damn dose of it, which makes me happy, and I feel obviously very lucky to be in the room here, to have been able to get Mariana to shove a bunch of my friends on the list at the last minute, and then to shove them into the team that I'll be working with over the next day or two. So thank you for all that social engineering. Hopefully it all works out, and thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you. I want to talk about impact as my word and emphasis for the work that we do. And I truly believe that as designers, it's really our responsibility to focus first on the impact of our work. And that work is really loaded, and it's really unclear about what any of us mean when we say the word impact. And it's really easy for any of us to get distracted by beautiful renderings, by design awards, by press and media opportunities. And I'll be the first to admit that we are no different than anyone else in this. But I really want all of us to commit to sharing real stories of impact of the work that we're doing while we're here together and once we leave. I want us to talk about how the service or the business or the product that we design is truly improving the lives of people. And I want us to start showing photos of people actually using the things that we're designing to tell stories about how that's happening in the world rather than just describing the process, and to really use the language of impact rather than a discussion of concepts. So I really believe that we are here because we want to improve the world. We want to improve people's lives. We have an opportunity to do that, and that the social sector and the private sector and the public sector will take that seriously when they see real demonstration of impact. And so I believe that we as designers can and will have deep and widespread impact when we really put our minds to that. Thank you.
Thank you for the slide. Morning, everybody. Thank you, Mariana. I'm extraordinarily honored to be here today. And I've kept my thing short because I want to add 2 more. So again, this is a drum I've been beating for a while that designers think they're in the artifact business, but that they're not, that they're in the consequence business. And this can be a brand or a poster. It can be a product or a service. Really, designers think that they design the thing, but what they're after is the impacts of the thing. They don't really think this way, and when they think this way, they get a little bit nervous. The irony is they actually want consequence. They want their thing to multiply out. If we can take one definition of design as scale, that you make something once and then it sort of multiplies out more than once, that's what people think that they want when they start creating the once. But then they get scared, and I think that they actually lose confidence when they start to think about what that multiplication is actually going to do. And so a lot of my talking and thinking is around trying to make sure that we're very clear on the business that we're in. The other thing that I'm concerned about right now just this extraordinary moment in history that we're at, where we have sort of, this incredible capability, sort of the apex of our capability in terms of material science and technology and communication platforms, and we kind of can sort of make anything that we choose to make, pretty almost. At the same time that we're on the, precipice of self-annihilation, just to put it lightly. Every layer, from ocean acidification and land and, fracking and air and space debris, and we're just like making this unbelievable shit mess of things when we can sort of do anything. And, we think about this in terms of goods and services, but when we think about it in terms of social innovation, this brings an entirely new lens, really pushing this question of whether, sustainability is a luxury, social innovation, people are like the connective tissue of really sort of impact on planet Earth. And so it is going to be fundamentally social, right? It's going to be, political and regulatory, and it's going to be people sort of making deals. In some sense, that actually has to be the raw material of progress. So, this is a good, spotlight to shine, and I'm excited about that. So we had asked you to do a few things in preparation for the conference here. One of them was to send us one link, a talk or a video or a book or an article, something like that, and that was great. Another is to do this video testimonial, this Stories from the Front Lines that I'll talk about for a second at the end here. And then the third was these opening arguments, and you really killed it. It was fantastic, the stuff that poured in, very passionate, some mantras, some mission statements, some of the things that you were really concerned about, interested in. And so I want to spend a few minutes just sort of peeking at these, giving you a quick tour of some of them so you can get a little bit of the lay of the land of what came into here. I think one of the challenges when we put this in an email with gathering symposia conferences is sort of how do you front load the thing? And how do you sort of fast track the beginning so that people can get a sense of the temperature in the room as well as the personalities? If I'm not able to include yours, I'm sorry. It was really tough editing. If I am including yours, I'm sorry too. So we have to start with this one under the category of taking no prisoners. This is Lorna Ross from Mayo. So I don't know what to read here. We need to move from a title that describes what we do, design, to one that describes the value we bring complex systems, architecture, human asset, engineer. She starts politely, but in number 2, design has been industry's bitch for 200 years. Yeah. Number 3, design is cannibalizing itself. Number 4, the design community is so distracted with being misunderstood that it is missing the bigger threat of being irrelevant. This has to be the quote of the conference. Good night. 5, we need more rigor and accountability from those who control design education. Yes, if design is so good at fixing problems, why are we all here in this room? Lorna, it's unbelievable. The best way to integrate design thinking into an organization is to hire designers, which is really sweet. A lot of people really sent in ideas, really what I would characterize like playing for keeps. While designers are typically well-intentioned, many lack the ethical framework to guide their practice. The result is an industry of practitioners focused on the most insignificant problems, making decisions that manipulate and coerce with little regard or responsibility for the consequences of their actions, from John Kolko at AC4D. Creative thinking and design is too crucial to be wasted on today's tsunami of self-expression, also tweetable, for those who are tweeting. Do we have a hashtag for this thing? LEAP. LEAP Symposium. All right, with a Y. Intractable, waste on today's tsunami of self-expression when our society's most intractable problems, by definition, require creative solutions, is Bill Huang from the city of Pasadena. I really love this one. Social enterprise as a practice needs to be a clear definition that provides more accountability. My greatest fear is to see the greenwash dilemma of environmentalism replicate itself across social entrepreneurship, says Matt Manos from Very Nice. And Emily Brew, hey you, who grew up in a connected world. I want big change driven by tribes of believers. Show me how it's done. And this is a great call to action. And then something I stuck in myself, some people never see the light till it shines through bullet holes, from Bruce Coburn. Too much? Okay. Ethical imperatives. So this seems to be a beating heart of this whole thing. As social design is today's creative problem solvers. We designers have the moral duty to leverage our skills and knowledge. Oh no. We have a moral duty to find a power connector quickly. Thanks. Thanks. Thanks, Jennifer. We have a moral duty to leverage our skills and knowledge to help solve some of the most pressing humanitarian challenges. Is from Safir Bilali at Vans. Maybe it'll let me hit play. Wow, it's really, it's trying to help me by hurting me. We will not let you go on. Okay, go back. Thank you. Okay. Social design represents the people it serves in extremely unethical ways. We need more equitable approaches to communicate our work that create greater impact for both communities and designers, as Jacob Brancassi. In a similar way that behavior has become a central material for the this is really great. This one you got to pay a little attention to. In a similar way that behavior has become a central material for interaction design and information for service design, if there is to be a discipline of social design, we might consider moral or custom a central material. Ethics is a form of designing where the designer is a moral agent seeking to devise ethical course of actions, is Kip Amli. A lot of you were very concerned with business and money and currency, as we should be. The biggest challenge in the social impact space today is alignment. The best profit-producing, aligned companies only have exit opportunities into incumbent industry or public markets, two highly suboptimal pathways. So there's no liquidity, therefore no investors, therefore no industry. How can we resolve this? From Kanye Macabella at the Collaborative Fund. Gabby Brink from Tomorrow Partners writes, to make meaningful contributions to the social impact economy, we need to think and behave like social entrepreneurs in our own rights. Market-based solutions are the only sustainable solutions, and they require strategic partnerships across sectors and disciplines. Design holds a powerful seat at that table, we hope. David Greco, given the magnitude of the cuts we are seeing in the social sector, there is no way philanthropy will be able to respond on a dollar-for-dollar basis. So our options are to either accept less impact and more people being denied access to services, or we can create new ways of driving capital to achieve social good. Use a metaphor or an analogy. Susie Sosa writes, the relationship between innovation and entrepreneurship is analogous to that between a football and the plays. If you've got one without the other, you're not going to score. Make it about business and use a metaphor. Amy Whittaker, there are two kinds of creativity: writing the letter, making the object itself, and designing the envelope, creating the system in which the work can exist. Business is the art form of envelope maker. I love that. And of course, a lot of submissions on design. Changes in behavior follow shifts in perception, and designers possess an understanding of what propels both. Because design is an act of redefining the possible, the ways in which individuals transcend the recalcitrance of entrenched norms is a rich area of exploration. From Scott Boylston at SCAD. By the way, I didn't acknowledge, I'm going to be reading my slides. So, that's bad, apparently. So anyone who really bugs must just be seething in their seat here. Linda Pillock, the path that design as a discipline has taken over is relatively short history in the social sector points to the need to develop a new design process for this arena that is fundamentally different from existing ones which were developed for business. For that to happen, designers must accept that they are usually not the right people to lead social sector projects, and that their contribution borrows from and coexists with social service, community organizing, development, business practice, and sometimes charitable work. From Johanna Blakely, designers play a special role in the attention economy, which is a beautiful way of putting it. With their power to reflect and remake the world comes a tremendous social responsibility to make things worthy of the valuable human attention that will be spent on them. And I love the way this speaks to a new kind of currency, a currency of attention. No one should ever animate presentation slides, ever. So that's from me. I was given this template. I'm grateful for this template, but I have two minds about it. Yeah. Okay. Some of you wanted to make it bigger. In order to appropriately address the issues and opportunities of the human condition in the 21st century, design needs to move beyond a product and service orientation and develop a language and understanding of how to participate in and contribute to the politics, scale, and sustainability of power, authority, and access across multiple social agendas and positions, writes Sean Donahue. This is big, this is lots, right? Design can benefit from learning the history, theory, and practice of making change, writes Laura Dye. Fields versed in change, like organization development, can provide design with a rich perspective on systems thinking, group dynamics, organizational behavior, and diversity, increasing design's ability to implement their visions for the future sustainability and sustainably and successfully. Some of you want to make it way bigger. The social world is always situated within the natural world, the environment. The interrelationships and interdependencies between the two can be powerful leverage points for positive change, writes the lovely Terry Irwin from Carnegie Mellon. And from Deborah Alden at the Camaraderie, instead of isolating social innovation as a separate practice for do-gooders, let's encourage and empower all design practice to be filled with active listening, loving, learning, and applied doing in service of the complex systems and communities of all who share this earth. It's like a poem. Or maybe we should make it smaller. The biggest challenge we face when we design for social innovation is how to change human behavior. I believe that we can start small if you can help make a difference with even just one person that can help lay the foundation for a larger cultural change, writes Radhika Bala from Facebook. And from Russ Finkelstein, if it takes just one person of standing in a community to be available to others and give them the confidence to feel like their goals are worthy and achievable, what prevents more people in the field from doing that frequently? A lot of you wanted to be specific, which I think is really, really important. Due to scale and impact, architecture is uniquely poised to connect the private sector with the social mission sector. How can emerging architects, planners, and designers better facilitate systemic change through bridging these two sectors? How can we as leaders in the space continue to make a better argument for connecting the two, says Elaine Assal from Gensler. And Ian Curry from Heavy Meta, tools like ride sharing show the potential to unlock and distribute value in an existing real-world system. How can we understand the potential for micro-work within communities and unleash other similar forms of latent value? Again, looking at analogies. And then Lucille Jones from the U.S. Geological Survey, my mission statement: I am dedicated to innovating the application of hazards science to protect the safety, security, and economic well-being of the nation, and that innovation requires more effective communication between scientists and potential users through effective design. I thought I was coming to this symposium for one reason. I need to be in a group with Lucille Jones and learn more about hazards science, because this sounds really, really important to me. Yeah, please introduce yourself. Make it personal. Deb Johnson from Pratt writes, live life 15% beyond your comfort zone. From John Fine, I want to give back for the air I breathe and the food I eat by helping improve the lives of other people. And certainly a lot of educators are here. How can we create creators who are fundamentally concerned with taking responsibility for the products, services, objects, bits and bobs they release into the world? The wonderful Liz Danzico from SVA. Against our modernist roots and the quantifying juggernaut of the present. I'm going to stop there. The quantifying juggernaut of the present is pretty awesome. We are asking what and who might be generated by a curriculum founded upon experiential learning, co-evolutionary ecologies, and geographical specificity, from Dave Bailey at ADCD. And then Ann Burdick with just a hell of a paragraph, right? And expected so. If design is to get serious about social impact, good intentions alone are not enough. Specific expertise is required. Photos of use are not enough. Change is manifold. Products and services are not enough. The market alone cannot address the social and political dimensions of complex problems. Preparing designers for this high-stakes work requires a radical reworking of design education, and with it, a reworking of design itself. So just going big, yeah. And then Sarah Brooks from Hot Studios, what are viable career pathways for students coming out of social design-minded academic programs? I see a tsunami of interest and a dearth of options for those that don't want to become founders. I'd like to help change that. And then Marin Gilad, millennials don't want career paths laid out for them. They want the education and skills to forge new paths for themselves. Creating new career pathways for social impact design means creating more fellowships and immersive learning experiences that allow young designers to gain the skills, knowledge, and confidence to forge their own paths. And then finally, in this education category from Lara Pennon at the New School, design can be a catalyst for social change by increasing the interface of grassroots sustainable social innovations with the general public and augmenting their value as tangible references for alternative ways of living. What is the new matrix of design education that corresponds to this aspiration of design? It's a beautiful phrase as well. And then finally, many of you kept it short and you kept it sweet. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can, quotes Bob McKinnon, sorry, typo, quoting Arthur Ashe. Learning to be a better human being makes me a stronger designer, writes Jeff Silva from J&J. I'm a tool, we are all tools, so what are we doing, writes Tom DeBlysis from Nike. I'm a tool, I don't know if you want to go out with that, but in context, I think it makes sense. And then David Ewald from Uncork Studios, it's never done. And I don't know if that's a positive thing. I want to be positive about that one. And then to wrap up, the lovely Natalie Destando from Tomorrow Partners, Listen, which makes me think about Petrula Vrontikis, also at Art Center, who said on Designmatters with Debbie Millman, she said, I work with my ears, which has stuck with me since that moment, which is just pretty amazing design methodology. So thank you for sending these in. Again, if we were able to include you here, then that's wonderful. If we're not, up next, these video testimonials, we've asked you to come here having prepared like an anecdote, a story from the front lines. Everyone's got a story in them. We have this amazing videographer who's set up. And really the fact is, if we didn't get 2 sentences from you for this past month, you're gonna now owe us 2 minutes, right? And we know who you are, right? Because we have the list. So can everybody who didn't send in an opening argument in the last couple weeks raise their hand, please? Really raise it up, okay? So we will see you here soon. Oh, wow, the house lights. You guys are pros. Yeah, so this has been an amazing thing to already be involved in. And I want to thank you so much. Thank you. I'm supposed to be clicking to the next slide. Oh, there it is.
Well, I knew he was going to be a tough act to follow. Thank you, Allan. We're going up in flames earlier than we thought. Did you burn the whole thing out? There we go. Good morning. I'm Karen Hoffman. I'm the chair of product design here at Art Center, and I'm super happy to be here today. I'm the last person between here in this room and us really getting to work in a few minutes, and I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about what our approach was on organizing this and how we designed our 3 days together. I had a conversation with Mariana, I don't know, a year and a half ago, I think it was, about this, and really seriously about a year ago, that we need to do something in this space. And there's 2 big drivers why I was really excited to really jump in along with our facilitation team to really shape this. Earlier when Mariana showed that timeline of those projects, I think us that are from here involved in this project, I got a little verklempt almost. Those are really meaningful projects. Those things mean so much to the students and faculty and alumni that have worked on those projects. And really, what Designmatters has done, as I'm sure many other of the social impact initiatives happening in other educational institutions, is that it's really shifted our mindset in a way. It's taken us from being the designer dressed in black with the portfolio and the severe glasses and the stuff that Lee's wearing today, to something where we can really think about ourselves as citizens now, that we are involved in shaping new things besides artifacts, right? We're always going to do that. We're makers. We're naturally makers, of course. We need to continue to do that and to visualize futures. But now we're co-designing. We're shaping with other people, with society in a new way, and we're creating new meaning, new context. And we've been doing this work, especially through our Designmatters work. And I think we're at this sort of tipping point where we're really starting to create transformation in society for good. We have a lot of work to do, but that's an exciting, a great thing. That's why we're all here. But then there's this tension, and the tension really does come from the fact that as a chair, I meet with a lot of my students, and the challenge that I have often is that we have students coming to this program, our programs, because of the social impact area that we're building. And they get excited, and they see the work we're doing and say, I want to do that work. How do I get in those projects? Great, we have a track. These are the classes you take. These are the projects you jump on. Awesome, you guys did a great job. I need an internship. Okay, cool. How do we find that? Where are the internships happening? And then finally, they're graduating. Now what? Where do I go? What do I do? Okay, so I think I'm coming from an undergraduate perspective, but I think this is actually, what our educators in this room are challenged with. And that's, I think, a lot of why we're here today is hopefully see how we can get those gaps together, the excitement, the enthusiasm of these new career paths, and then a reality of how do we get there. So our approach really to this, our LEAP approach, was really to create the studio setting. Today, all of you will be placed in 5 teams, and you're going to be in our studios, in our design studios. We still have classes going on, so you're going to see all of our students going to class, hanging out at the coffee cart, all this other stuff, and you're going to be in our spaces. So we are in a very designerly fun setting. We also have been borrowing and adapting to create these 3 days from various design thinking methodologies that I know most of you are familiar with a focus specifically on this is participatory led. Okay, so we are adapting, and to use Mariana's emphasis earlier on dynamic and exploratory, that's really what we want to do in our process is really adapt various methods. But we do have a sort of a framework we're starting from, and that's our design storm process. We've been doing this for several years. It's a very rapid, intensive brainstorming methodology that our facilitation team will be leading you through as a starting point. Okay, and this is what it looks like. Okay, it's iterative. It's very conversational. It can get messy and sometimes completely chaotic, and so we're expecting a little bit of that. But it's also very fluid and adaptable. And because we're right on time, the facilitation team, we're going to start to adapt right now, right? Because we know we've got some crunching to do. So we do have some goals, and the team of facilitation that we have, they're awesome. They've done a lot of this before, and a lot of you in the room have done your own facilitation. So we're really hoping that this community can come together in this participatory-led process. So our facilitation team we're not going to hold everyone's hands. This is really about us sort of being the guardrails. We're really trying to guide and capture all the conversation. We're here to really keep the conversation and agenda, hopefully going, at moving forward, and really using some of our workshop style methodologies to really enable the dialogue. So our team, I've been working with Mariana and working with Sherry Hoffman. So there's, yes, 2 Hoffmans. I'm the 1 F, 2 N's. Sherry's the 2 F's, 1 N. Don't worry about that. Sherry comes from, her focus is on branding. She's done a lot of our design storms since the inception of them. So she's really helped sort of shape our 3 days, along with Heidrun Mumper-Drumm, who is our director of sustainable initiatives here. And so the 3 of us with Mariana have really started to kind of create and craft these 3 days together. We're very grateful for all the hard work of this team. Other Art Center faculty that you all get to know, Rob Ball, Dan Gottlieb, Liliana Becerra, Penny Herskovich, and Christina Costella. all have a lot of experience in this space, in entrepreneurship, in our social impact projects, design storms, etc. And we're super happy to welcome some of our guest faculty as well in our facilitation team, Liz Ogbu, and Liz teaches at 3 different schools, so that's really cool. Berkeley, Stanford, and CCA, so we're really happy to have you here, Liz. And then we have our 2 designers from MICA, Jonathan Irwin and Becky Slagaris, and they will also be part of our team, and we're really happy to have you here joining the Art Center facilitation team. Before I move into this, I also want to make it really clear that this could not happen without our students and our alumni. We have a tremendous group of volunteers and TAs that are helping us with this whole thing, and they've basically dedicated this week, and we appreciate that. So thank you students for helping us out here. So we're going to move into some sessions. After I'm done speaking, Jennifer, our logistics Wonder Girl, will come up and talk about how this is all going to actually happen logistically. But what we want to do this next 3 days together is really first break up into these teams. We're going to converge out and then come back in these group sessions. Today really is all about our current state. Where are we at? So today's about sharing our insights, really seeing where some emergent topics are starting to develop. Tomorrow we're going to move into more of a forward-thinking opportunity space. And then finally, I think all of our favorite things is really future state, dreaming, really where are the new pathways and how do we get there? So that's a really quick overview of what we're doing today, and we're really looking forward to this participatory process with all of you. So with that, I'm going to have Jennifer come up and talk about the next steps. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jennifer May. Many of you know me from email. I'm just going to give you guys some directions. You'll be seeing me after all of our gathering sessions, and I will share super fascinating logistic information with you. So next we're heading into your first working sessions. So you should have received a dot when you arrived, and that will tell you what classroom you're going to. So orange dots, you're 222, yellow dots, 223, green, 224, red, Simtel, and blue dot, 225. Don't panic, all the rooms are together, but they are on the clear opposite end of the building. So we have volunteers lined up to show you where to go. If you are familiar here with Art Center, I know we have some alum and students in the crowd. Please help us guide everyone, because I know this building can be a bit of a maze. And also be sure to follow us on LEAP Symposium and Twitter, and hashtag LEAP Symposium if you are tweeting. So with that, we'll bring up the house lights and we'll head to our working sessions. If you don't have a dot, you might have missed it. Our volunteers have sheets and they have our forms, and they can give you a dot.